This is an RPG-A-Day response from the Casting Shadows blog. Welcome to Day 7 of RPG-A-Day. It's August 7th, and we are now completing our first week of questions and answers for Autocratic's very cool RPG-A-Day. If you've fallen behind and you'd like some help catching up on what people are posting, you can find a weekly recap on the RPG Brigade YouTube channel. Also, you can go to RPGaDay.org, go to the RPG-A-Day menu, and go to the gallery, and you'll find where people have submitted their material. If you have been making things and haven't submitted it at RPGaDay.org, please do so. We'll approve it as soon as we can and get it up in the gallery with everything else, so that, more and different people who may not be watching you regularly can hear what you have to say, which is part of what this is all about. And then after RPG-A-Day is over, hopefully some totally new conversations will be sparked. Okay, the question for today, for Day 7, is what aspect of RPGs has influenced you the most? Well, we've talked about this a little bit in the past on the channel, but not so directly, I think. And for me, while initially the draw to playing RPGs was the aspect of getting to make decisions within the context of these very cool fantasy stories, what became the reason why I stayed with it was the way it enabled me to make friendships that I wouldn't have made otherwise, and that's very important for me. I'm the sort of person that would spend much more time with a dog or with a book than I would in seeking out other people. And so you really can't play role-playing games at all well if it's just you in the room, Tunnels and Trolls notwithstanding. So that part of RPGs has been the most important in how it's changed my life. In fact, I went from being so insular and withdrawn that RPGs were pretty much my only social activity done by choice, to where my jobs have been entirely about communication. So that's something to think about. Now, it's kind of funny. It strikes me as funny anyway that normally I do these sorts of videos by myself, and I probably don't seem like the most social of people, certainly not sitting here in darkness. And then I realized that for this video, not any of the others that I've made this week, but for this video, Billy really wanted to be a part of what I was doing. So sometimes context and the vagaries of the universe make for interesting commentary. But communication. A friend of mine said to me once that it's funny that the thing I spend most of my free time doing is hanging out with people I say are my friends, while we all pretend to be other people. And he couldn't really get his head around the idea that this is what I consider to be a social activity. And I still feel bad for him. The fact that so much of what was going on in our game groups that he witnessed and missed, I find that sad, and I wish I had been better able to explain to him the lure of them. Communication doesn't necessarily have to be sitting around and having deep discussions about things that matter to you, or things that don't matter to you, or what's happening in the news, or who's trying to get elected for this, that, or the other thing. Sometimes you reveal more about yourself and your situation. Sometimes you discover more about someone else and their situation when you are removed from it a step. I think some of our greatest fiction shows us this, how in Star Trek the original series they could posit questions that likely wouldn't have made it to television without the veneer of character and the veneer of genre. This is not the only example, but I find that role-playing games are a way that this manifests also. People who are unsure of who they are can experiment. People who are sure of who they are can perhaps act with greater freedom and without judgment, or as much judgment, or at least the judgment of your friends and not your enemies, and so on. Things can exist. There can be a stability, a familiarity, a friendliness around the table that maybe is absent for others when they go home. And so it is this aspect of our game. It's not the stories for me. Characters are a big part. The opportunity to discover in yourself the impulse to the heroic, the impulse to the altruistic, that I find valuable. But the most valuable thing for me in our hobby is that at its base level, it cannot be done without communicating with others, describing and responding to description. And this is fundamental, I feel. And there are many people out there for whom this is a terrifying prospect, or something that they can only do in limited or defined circumstances. And role-playing games give you those circumstances and help you develop in ways that you might not have. Now, what aspect of role-playing games has influenced you the most? I'm going to go looking for your answer. RPGaDay. We have finished our first week. We finished our first round of 7 questions. There are more to come. We have 31 days in August with a question for every day, something for hopefully everybody to participate in some of the time, if not all of the time. Whenever you do comment or blog or make a video or whatever, remember to hashtag it with RPGaDay and share it on RPGaDay.org. Join our gallery of responses, check out alternate questions, and read the questions in other languages on RPGaDay.org.